All right, it's 7 o'clock straight up. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you to those who have tuned in live and to those who will watch the recording. Thank you to you as well. We now enter the second half of the season. When you get to halftime of your game Friday or Saturday night, you will have reached the halfway point. Um, and the theme for tonight goes along with that because now that we're entering into the second half of the season, what I would ask you to do is to clean up things that you have noticed throughout the first four games of the season. They might be individual, they might be crew things, but let's look for things to improve upon and take care of those little things because little things add up to be big things. So that is our theme for tonight, clean it up. Um, I'd like to mention one thing. As I watch video, it appears to me that we have some people that probably are substituting on crews, which is understandable. Um, but when we see them performing mechanically at one of the deep three positions, particularly field judge, side judge, and they seem uncertain about certain things, it makes me realize that they've really not had the training to perform as we would like to have them do so. So when you have a sub on your crew, what I'd like you to do, referees, is to consider your opponents, consider the people that you have on the crew, and deploy your resources accordingly. That might mean bringing in a sub to umpire. It might mean line of scrimmage, might even be back judge, depending on their experience. And then redeploying other resources so that we can best cover the game and get the best outcome for not only the teams, but us as a crew. So just give that some thought. Don't automatically plug in the new person at field judge or side judge. There may be a better solution. All right. The one of the things we've been doing this year is focusing on crew communication and mechanics. Um, very, very pleased to have a gentleman that I have a great deal of respect for, and that's Gary Blackford in terms of his experience, where he has been, and where he's going. So Gary is going to handle the first portion of crew communication and mechanics tonight. Gary, thank you for taking on the assignment.
Well, thanks for asking, Rich. Glad to support the great training that you put on each week. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to go through a quick PowerPoint. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I thought it was good to kind of ground us all in crew communications from the perspective that I have and the way I approach it. And so just spend a couple of minutes on this, and then we'll get into some play clips, of course. But I want to talk about not just crew communications during the game, but all the crew communications that are required leading up to the game. And I think about it in these terms. What do we need to do during the game week to make sure that we're all on the same page when we arrive at the game site? What do we do about a pregame conference, and then our on-field pregame duties and how we share that information with each other, and then go into the aspects of the game: pre-snap communications, live ball communications, dead ball communications. And I'm not really going to talk about O2O. I recognize more and more of us are using O2O now, and it certainly enables a lot better communication among the crew, but there's a lot of information out there on good O2O communications and protocols, so I'm not going to get into that tonight. Very early in the week, we have to set the stage for a successful game, and it really starts with good game week communications. This is an example of all of the information that we as a crew share with each other via an email communication. Now, I realize some crews might do conference calls or Teams calls or something during the week and share the same information. We do it via email. But we make sure we include, of course, the basics: date, schools, head coaches, location, kickoff time, whether there's any pregame or halftime activities, certainly something that might extend the halftime. We want to know about that beforehand. What field surface are we playing on? Are we on grass or are we on turf? Sometimes that makes a difference for guys relative to what shoes they might wear. It might make a difference with respect to what color bean bags you use, et cetera. So you want to certainly share that information. Whether or not they have an on-field visible play clock, and certainly a separate clock operator in the booth for that play clock, whether or not they have a field mic, because we can get thinking about how we're going to manage the game right up front if we know these things. We include a weather forecast. We think it's a little helpful. who the contact is at the school for game day. God forbid you get into a traffic situation that you didn't plan for or provide enough time for. You want to be able to communicate that and in an adjusted arrival time to the game contact at the school. We confirm arbiter assignments are correct and who the crew roster is for the night, who's going to put together the rating cards and the press box packages. We do deliver press box packages to both the announcer and the clock operator to give them additional information to help them with their duties for the game. What uniform we're going to wear, whether we're long or short sleeves, etc. And then where are we going to park? What time are we going to arrive? We also include a map of the school and exactly point out where we're supposed to park per school administration. And then what are our pregame topics for the week and who's going to cover those? Once we're there, we will have a pregame conference. Like I said, some crews might do this during the week via conference call. We tend to have our pregame conference at the school site. We arrive plenty early enough to allow us to do that while we're there. And then some of the relevant topics that might be on that list of pregame conference topics are situations from the previous week's games, perhaps some feedback we got from observers, aspects of football that are opportunities for us to improve upon just based on our own evaluation of our performance or feedback we've received. And then, of course, we focus on the mechanics for the size crew that we're using. We all know that Section 2 in the mechanics manual has all of the communication signals that we use. Certainly with O2O, again, that helps us communicate, but we don't want to lose sight that these communications are really important and that we should continue to use them. These are some pre-snap communications that we may share with each other. During the live ball, obviously, we want to share whether or not we have a backward or forward pass. That's generally going to be a line judge responsibility, and whether or not a pass or kick was legally touched. I don't have a signal here in the deck tonight for that, but I think we're all aware of what that signal is as well. And then certainly when we get into dead ball communications after the play, of course, we're going to signal for the covering official that we do have a dead ball as we sound our whistle. We may indicate to the referee if we have a first down that we do have a first down, and we don't want to signal first down like a referee would. We just want to give them a little point in front of our bodies indicating to the referee that we have a first down, and we'll let him or her signal it accordingly. Then we want to share whether or not that play ended inbounds or out of bounds, and whether we're going to wind or whether we're going to start the clock on the snap. And then, of course, there's a lot of communications in the dead ball period. If we have a flag down and we need to communicate foul information to the referee and ensure that we get penalty enforcement correct. So with that, let's take a look at some play films here. I want to thank the folks that shared some play films with me for this week's video. And I want to start out here with a play. It's going to be a run to the left. This is we're snapping at about the +7 yard line. So the deep wings are deep, as we can see here. The line of scrimmage officials have goal line responsibility. We're going to have a QB rolling to the left, a receiver going to the sideline on the left. And let's just take a look at how the officials cover it. So what we can see here is a delay, which is what we want. We want to slow down. We want to have both the line of scrimmage official and the deep wing both take a look at that, make eye contact, and then together rule on that play. Now, in this case, I would suggest that as a line of scrimmage official, we're going to want to just give an incomplete pass signal here. And you can follow that with an out of bounds signal. I would only do it one time, but let's start with that incomplete pass signal and then follow it up with an out of bounds indicator if we feel that's important. But nice job by both of these officials delaying, making eye contact, and then signaling the incomplete pass. On this particular play, this is a situation where we have a flag down and we need some communication among the crew after the play is over regarding how far that forward pass went. So let's take a look at this one. We're snapping here from about the +9 or 10 yard line. So you can see deep wings have goal line responsibilities. They're positioned quite well there. And the umpire sees a lineman go downfield, and then let's watch how this plays out. So let me run that back here. We got a pass. It's a forward pass, clearly. The umpire recognizes that he has number 75 here downfield. He's got a forward pass. He's not quite sure where it went as far as how far that pass went downfield, whether or not it crossed the line of scrimmage. I don't expect the umpire to know that, but he knows that he's got a forward pass and he's got a lineman downfield. So he appropriately drops his flag. On this particular play, the officials come together and the umpire specifically asks, did that forward pass cross the line of scrimmage? The line of scrimmage officials confirmed that it did not. They ended up picking up this flag appropriately and waving that off. And the referee, because they had a field mic that night, went on the mic and indicated that there was no foul for an ineligible downfield because the pass did not cross the neutral zone. And Rich, if you have any comments on any of these as we go, feel free to jump in as well.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. We'll just move on to this next one. So this next play, let me set this one up a little bit. This play number 85. So we're snapping from the +9-yard line. You can see that our line of scrimmage officials are at the line of scrimmage, and the deep wings, of course, have goal line responsibilities. Now, what I would prefer to see here is that this deep wing be a little more on the goal line. He seems to be just a little bit into the end zone and perhaps a little more back off the sideline as well, just to give him a little more room to work this play. We're going to have a pitch left, a run left, and let's see how this plays out. So we've got this runner going up the sideline. We've got good position by the line judge here, right at the sideline. We would like to see the deep wing stay at the goal line and perhaps give a little more ground as he sees that play approach his area. I will say this is a first-year official. He's on the deep end of the learning curve. So he's got a lot to process here and learn, but nevertheless, what I do like about this play, and I'll play it back just a little bit here, is that both the line judge and the field judge here take their time. The line judge indicates to the field judge by pointing towards the field of play that the runner stayed in bounds, and then the field judge goes up with the touchdown signal.
Gary, your mention of the deep wing at the top of the screen being a first-year official really illuminates the point that I made during the introduction, and that is that we need to look strategically at our crew for every assignment, but particularly when we have someone added to the crew. A first-year official is still learning his or her way in terms of handling things on the field, let alone a position like field judge, side judge. So if we can put that person into a more familiar position for him or her, we're probably better served than putting them into circumstances such as this one.
Well put, Rich. Thank you. The other comment I'll just have on this before we move on to the next play is the line judge, who is also working out a position I'll mention on this game, could just stay put, either at the 15 or maybe make his way to the 10, but he could just stay put and officiate from a stationary position along that sideline. He's got a great view of that sideline, and continuing to move and get closer really isn't serving him any advantage here. All right, next clip. This play is, we're snapping from the plus 27-yard line. As such, we can see the deep wing is positioned at the goal line, as they should be. I think we would like to see their shoulders square to the field of play here. Again, this is the same official who's on the steep end of that learning curve, as I mentioned earlier. We've got an inadvertent timeout signal by the line judge here, but then a quick recovery and a good communication to the referee to wind that clock. We've got a fumble on the play. He starts to kill the clock, realizes it doesn't need to stop. He rewinds it. The referee then follows suit and ensures that the clock starts again. Another look at it here from the end zone view. So again, that can happen, and the point I'd like to make here is let's just slow down. I know Rich talks about that a lot. We talk about that a lot in our pregame conferences as well. Just slow down. Let's just make sure we've processed what we're seeing, and then we wouldn't have an inadvertent timeout signal followed by a wind the clock signal. And then just one more, Rich, and then I'll turn it back to you here. Uh, and in this situation, we've got a snap from the plus 20-yard line. As such, we see the deep wings again at the goal line as they should be. And this is just more of a communication and an opportunity for improvement at the 2. We've got a reception. Receiver goes to the 2. He's down. Line judge is coming down. The deep wing does not take the spot here, and he should. We're down at the 2-yard line. Deep wing has the 2 and in, as we know. So the line judge could be communicating to the deep wing, but the deep wing gives up that spot. The line judge takes it, and of course they have a quick communication, and we've got a comment here about that as well. So Rich, hopefully I didn't take up too much time, but that was all I had from a play clip standpoint. I've got a couple of YouTube videos we don't need to look at, but I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you very much, Gary. It was. There should be multiple points here for everyone on the call. I certainly got a couple of things out of it as well. So thank you. And by the way, we're looking for a volunteer to take on this task for next week. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know and we'll figure something out for you. Okay. Cody, if you will take us to MHSAA clip number 3, we're keeping in the same theme here of crew mechanics. All right, so what we have is 4th down, deep in Team A's territory. They are in legal scrimmage kick formation, and go ahead and let it run through. Now, in this particular case, go ahead and run it back to the beginning and hold it, please. In this particular case, um, Team B is undoubtedly going to decline a foul and accept a score. But let's take on some other scenarios. Let's say that this pass is completed to a teammate, and at least for a first down, maybe for a score. Okay. So now as a crew, we have some things we have to make sure that we have completed properly. First of all, is it a legal forward pass? Is it to an eligible receiver, not only by position, but by number? The other factor that we could have would be ineligible player downfield. Now, because it's a scrimmage kick formation, Team A is entitled to have numbering exceptions. So that brings in that whole aspect of number one, preparing for broken plays or trick plays, as the case may be. And someone on the field, normally the umpire, has got to confirm before every potential scrimmage kick whether we have eligible numbers in ineligible positions. Might be the snapper, might be a couple players on the line covering the punt. But if we do, it doesn't prevent Team A from throwing out of that formation. But it obviously Team A has to comply with the same rules as if they had 5 numbers, 50 through 79. So at the end of the play, it may be that one of the short wings will say, I had number 17 downfield. And if you're uncertain as to whether he's an eligible player, just like we do with OPI and some other situations like that, dropping your flag is certainly acceptable. And then we have to have the confidence to go to the umpire. That's the person that usually has the card, knows the numbers, to say, was 17 a good number? And if the answer is no, then we know we have a good flag. If the answer is yes, or yes, that's a good number, then we can pick up the flag. We would go to the referee, straighten that out, and say there's no foul for an eligible downfield. Number 17 was in a eligible position to receive a pass. If he is not an eligible receiver, then we're going to leave the flag down and we're going to enforce the foul. So these are the details that we have to attend to we have to prepare for the worst so that if something unforeseen does come along, we've got a process by which we follow to determine whether we have a legal play or not. And of course, umpires, you need to know. And before every kick, as previously mentioned, you need to take that card out and confirm that what numbers are in ineligible positions. Don't assume because you got the numbers from the coach in the pregame that that's going to stay that way the whole game. Someone may get hurt for one reason or another. There may be a substitute, so you need to know what numbers are what we call bad numbers. Okay, any questions on that? All right, if we'll jump now to West Michigan, please. All right, now well, go ahead and run it through so that you can get a feeling for it. Let's say you're the line of scrimmage person at the bottom of the screen. Is that full screen? Okay, good. All right, so you got a decision to make. We can pretty well check the box that this is the process, the catch was completed because we know we have to have firm control and be able to do something common to the game. And of course, that's the backward pass to the teammate. But now the next decision becomes probably the most important, and that is um, is the pass actually backward? And if we're not anticipating that that may happen, then we may not know. Now, there are a couple other people potentially that could contribute at the end of the play. The umpire might, maybe even the opposite wing. Now, it appears that the opposite wing pretty well held tight there. Wouldn't hurt for that short wing to progress downfield a little bit. Clearly, this play is away from him. Okay. So that's the first part of it. Now, if the second pass is indeed forward, is that a dead ball foul? No. We're going to let that progress, but we need to have a flag down at the spot of the pass. Because the reason why we don't shut it down is that Team B may gain possession of the ball during the down and choose to decline the illegal forward pass. So that's the easy part. Now, what do you do if the second pass is forward and is incomplete? That may be your homework assignment this week. What do you do in that situation? Is that a live ball? Is that a dead ball? So look that up, discuss that as a crew this week. Probably most people know exactly what the answer is. So, but if you don't, take the time to look it up. All right, so there's a couple extra plays where we've got to work together as a crew. We need to be prepared to recognize the situation, come forward with information if necessary, and as we've talked about multiple times through the summer and into the fall, uh, getting more people involved tends to lead to a better outcome than just having one person make that decision, oftentimes guessing whether he or she is right or wrong. All right, any questions on this clip? Okay, some good plays to learn from. Let's progress now into our regular playlist. We're going to start with MHSAA football officials. Work on. All right, first of all, the umpire has delayed coming in, which is good. It appears to me that he was back near his pylon waiting to determine, as we've instructed, whether this is a 1 or a 2-point attempt. So far, so good. But now the other part of this that maybe I've not spent enough time on is the reason why we have the side judge in there as the double umpire is we want to get him or her over on the strong side of the formation. So even though we don't have an end zone camera, it should be clear to you that the defense's right side or to the left side of the screen is the strong side. So when we come in, side judges, and let's talk about this with our umpires as well. The umpire should be watching and listening. Typically, Team B will tell you whether they're going to be strong right or strong left. So if you listen, they're going to tell you pretty much what's going to happen. So if the side judge is not in there yet, but the umpire is, the side judge should know that this is going to be a strong right formation for Team B, and he's going to want the side judge to come over on the other side of him, and then the umpire is going to come over on what would be the left side of Team B on the weak side. Now, the reason why you need to be on the strong side is that most of the time, if there's going to be shenanigans, it will come from the strong side. If you remember this summer, we showed some clips in a state final game where on three occasions a certain team executed a pull and shoot. A lineman pulled an offensive lineman out of the way, which allowed a teammate to go through. And at least one of those plays resulted in a blocked PAT. So it did make a difference. That's why the side judge is in there. You're not in there for cosmetics. You're not in there to get on the camera. You're in there to help supervise what's going on inside and be aware of pull and shoot by the defense. Okay, next clip. The next one is going to be a field goal attempt. And we're in there. And first of all, we're too tight. Uh, Side judges, you need to be 7 yards off the ball and no wider than the tight end. Now, you may adjust, like let's say there's a player that's in front of you, a linebacker type person. If you need to take a half step to your right or to your left, by all means, feel free to do it. But what you're looking for is a situation where you can see there are three or more defensive players essentially lined up on two offensive linemen. That's typically where pull and shoot occurs. So in this particular case, we're at least 2 yards too close. I would say a better position for the side judge would be closer to the 10-yard line here. That would be more like 7 yards. But you need that distance because if you're too close, you can't see the forest for the trees. Now, I'm a retired side judge, so I spent a lot of time in there. I never got fully comfortable after all those years, but I did learn how to manage it. All right. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that 3 or 4 on 2 lineman situation that may result in pull and shoot. So no wider than the tight end, 7 yards, and just be aware of looking for that and a player sliding through. Okay, third one. All right, we are not in PAT formation. Yes, we have a potential holder, and yes, we have a potential kicker, but you can see that the holder is not down. If you back it up, Cody, a few frames, the holder is not down, and the kicker is not in a position where he's prepared to kick. The key here is kicker and holder in position to receive a snap and make a kick. So because we have the muddle to the offense's left, our side judge should be over in the vicinity of the pylon. I would say with that formation, I'd like to see you in a normal goal line situation or red zone situation where you're behind that pylon ready to officiate a 2-point attempt. The field judge is not on camera, which means I'm presuming that he's back with his pylon. Umpire is over the ball, as he should be. Back judge is right where he belongs. Now, if you run this little bit, the back judge recognizes that we've got the side judge inside, not in a position to be able to officiate, and he's calling, trying to get the attention. And about that time, Team A shifts over. So no harm, no foul in this particular situation, but it does illustrate why we need to make sure that we don't presume a 1-point attempt, that we're prepared to defend against a 2-point attempt. All right, next clip. What we're going to get here is a long free kick return. Now, our deep wings do a nice job staying at the 50-yard line. However, you can see the side judge at the top of the screen started moving in bounds. We want you to stay on the sideline, preferably to the back edge of the white. That will help keep players back. All right, let's run it again. Now, the first engagement that the field judge should notice is the one that started at the 35. So back it up a few frames, Cody. This is the first one that's going to happen. Now, yeah, you're going to have one that eventually is going to take place at about the 25, but at least initially should start there, and this should get your attention. Right now, we should also get support inside from the umpire, looking at that engagement as well at the hash mark. Now, if you follow number 12 orange, go slow, Cody. He's going to continue on the block. He's good. He's good. No problem. Yes, he's got him restricted, but the point of attack has not yet been developed. Right there is your foul. You can see that he clearly took at least one step away from that player, and the result was another probably 5 to 7 yards on the return. So that's why we have to stay with our keys. And many times we're going to have um, more than one set of eyes on it, depending on where the point of attack is. But that's a foul that we should get. Now, our short wing bails us out with a flag. He recognizes that as a restriction and flags it. Now, in this particular case, he comes up properly and marks the dead ball spot. Now, we know that that is going to come back and we're going to enforce a holding foul, but we want the field judge, after she cleans up out of bounds, to come up and take that spot. Now, I would say that we got a little bit excited there. The line judge came in a little too quickly. Let's make sure that we get those opponents out of the bench and that we get the field judge up there with the ball. All right. And then come back and report your foul. All right. Now, the other part of this play that's interesting, if you notice at the top of the screen, we get a flag down from our side judge. Now, is there, if you go back further, Cody, there clearly is restriction here. All right. There's no question about it. We're looking now at the top of the screen. Restriction, restriction, they're dancing over there, but that's 3/4 of the way away from the field, or 3/4 of the field away from the end of the play. This is a talk to. This, this is the foul selection that we've been talking about. Is it visible? Absolutely. Is it material? Absolutely. Does it take anything away from team B? No. No, that player was out of the play. So make that a talk to his coach, talk to the player. We may need to explain that to the opposing coach as well, but that's not a foul that we want called. We do want the one at the bottom of the screen. Okay, next play. This is going to be a really good read and react by our side judge. He's at the top of the screen. Now, I'd like to see him in a scissors type stance with his shoulders approximately parallel. But he does get good depth, and he's able to keep that depth and recognize that the defensive back is not playing the ball and made early contact, which affected the speed and balance of the receiver to potentially play the ball. So we ended up with the proper result here, and that being a DPI foul. I'd just like to see us start maybe just a little bit deeper. We're starting at about 20 yards rather than 22 to 24. And I'd like to see shoulders square to the sideline with a scissor stance. But overall, well done in terms of getting to where he needed to go and making the right call. All right, next clip. All right, now this is going to be, hold up, Cody. We're going to do a little poll. What we're going to have is we're going to have an engagement down near the goal line, just inside the hash mark. So what I'd like you to do, we're going to run it one time, and then we're going to give you a chance to check a box. It's either offensive holding, OH, defensive holding, DH, a foul on both players, or no foul at all. All right. So now let's run it, and then you can make your choice. So just about at the goal line, just inside the hash. All right, there's your one time. Make a selection, please. You're the back judge. What do you have here? All right, let's see the results of the poll.
All right, 5 responded with offensive holding, 1 responded with defensive holding.
Okay. The person with defensive holding, can you justify and defend your answer?
So in looking at that, it just to me the safety was swinging the gentleman the player around, and that's where it looked to me. Yeah, thanks for playing it over again. That's where I had him,
Mhm.
seeing him swinging around.
All right. First of all, it's an ugly play. And frankly, over the years, I've been inclined just to let them both lay there. But um, looking at this, remember, defensive players are able to free themselves of blocks. So action, which is interpreted to mean that the player is attempting to get off a block, we're going to extend some courtesy. All right. Now, in this particular case, the offensive player comes out, hands and arms are outside the frame of the body. And then he pulls him down. So there are three acts. The initial act is the team A player comes out and engages. Then the second act is the defense either attempting to get off of the block or to pull him to the ground, depending on your interpretation. But then the third piece is the team A player says, "Oh, no, 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 no. You're coming down with me." And he pulls him down. So the outcome that we'd like to have here is holding by the offense. The responsibility belongs to the offensive player. Defensive player is trying to shed the block, and the receiver then pulls him down. Okay. Good play to learn from. All right, let's move on to our next play. This is going to be an unusual free kick, or excuse me, quick kick. This looks like a running play. It's 4th down and about 13. Snap goes and he starts one way and he goes, "No, I don't think so." Maybe it was because you had that defensive player coming up that he thought better of trying to run a play. Maybe this was totally improvised. But nonetheless, we ended up with a quick kick out of this. Now, that's all well and good. And what we need to do as a deep three is when we see that we don't have the play from scrimmage, then we've got to get busy and make sure that we can respond to the depth of the kick. And the line, of course, that we have to make sure that we defend is the goal line. Now, the back judge does a pretty good job. He backs up. He could have gone all the way to the goal line, but our deep wing at the top of the screen, he's kind of cruising. He's thinking this kick isn't going to go real far, and he actually stops at about the yard line where the kick lands, as opposed to continuing to progress back towards the goal line. So we want to make sure that we always, when in doubt, go a little bit further than we think that we need to, so that if something does happen, we're prepared to defend the goal line, whether it comes to our pylon or not. All right, next clip. All right, now we're going to have a play that's going to go into the sideline at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so you're going to see that the runner is going north and south. Now, the hit by the player on the sideline. Now, we don't have a clean look at the sideline, but we're going to assume that the player is near the sideline, perhaps has a foot down out of bounds, but he's still going north and south. So we're going to give some latitude to the guy that's coming at a 90-degree angle towards him. The player, however, from behind does not get the same latitude. He clearly can see this guy out of bounds, and he just chooses to pull him down once he's out of bounds. So if this flag is on the player, the second player that's chasing the runner, this is a correct call. If the foul is on the player that is going 90 degrees towards the runner, then I would say at best that's a marginal call. All right. So deep wing is coming up. He may not have the benefit of seeing the action on the backside. And what I would expect the deep wing to do is to come up and say, "What do you have? I got a late hit out of bounds." On what player? Is it the player that's coming from the middle of the field? And if the answer is yes, then what we need to say is, I had a good look at that, and this runner is going north and south. He just had gotten out of bounds. We gotta seriously consider picking up this flag. On the other hand, if he says no, it's the guy behind that had a second act that threw him down out of bounds. Okay, now we're going to stick with the call. Okay, that's the communication that we need to have, and the difference between those two defensive players. All right, next clip. All right, now we get, first of all, let's go back to the formation. We've got trips to the bottom of the screen. All right, stop the video. All right, the first thing we need to recognize, let's see, this is 113. So this is H, S, and B on this side of the field. All right, so none of these players are pressed. So initially, all three of those officials have the benefit of waiting for the players to declare by the routes that they're going to take. All right. Now, there's going to be one player that's going to go down towards the center of the field that's going to gain the attention of the H. However, this player really belongs more to the back judge than he does to the H. And he's going to chip block. I think he's out there looking to pick off this linebacker. So go ahead and let it run. You can see him come down, and 7 steps up a little bit, but you can see that number 30 really does not continue with this pattern. So his intent is fairly obvious, right? But now the other part of this play, whether the back judge throws his flag or in this case the H, is does the pass cross the line of scrimmage? Or snapping from a big line, it's the 45. You can see this pass is touched, if anything, at the line and maybe even behind the line. So what we might have in terms of OPI is going to be negated by the fact that the pass is first touched at or behind the line. Now, the problem here is that the calling official is the one that should have the best perspective in terms of does this pass cross the line. Now, in this particular case, line judge, if you smell smoke here, feel free to come in there. Hey, what do you have? Maybe you use 020. What do you have? Well, we're talking about OPI and number 30. Well, are you aware that this pass did not cross the line? That should be the end of the discussion right there. Okay. So again, these are crew kinds of things that we have to address along with mechanics. I would say this is a stretch for H to get in there. However, if we don't get a flag down, it might be a crew saver. But back judge, you should also have an opinion. You should maybe even come in and say, wait a minute, do you have number 30? Well, I saw the linebacker come up and have some contact. Get involved in the conversation so that we can come up with a better outcome than letting someone stick with something that when we look at video we go, oh, well, I didn't realize. No one told me. Okay. All right, next clip. All right, we're going to get 2 holds on this. The first one is at the bottom of the screen. Now this is the flyer. So the deep wing, this is, I don't know where this is in the game because this was a clip from a training tape. So I'm not sure where we are in the game. So the deep wing at the bottom of the screen. This is your bogey to start out with. Now you can see the guy gets shackled pretty quickly, and the Team B player drives him pretty deep, even behind the line of scrimmage. And to the credit of the short wing, he recognizes that and goes, nope, we're not having that, and drops a flag. Would also like to see a flag from our deep wing. The other hold, obvious hold, is by the snapper. Now, no one is over him to begin with. He has time to recover, get his balance, but there's obviously a player that is designated to make sure that this guy does not get downfield. And he makes sure that he doesn't. So you've got 2 takedowns by Team B. Now, the other part that we have to deal with here is we have a shank punt. Now, this is tough for the referee because the referee is over here at the bottom of the screen, and we've got a kick that goes very short out of bounds. Now, if a kick lands in the white, Deep wings, you're on your own. I wouldn't, well, I wouldn't look back to the referee. I would do my very best to get the best spot that you can. Now, in this particular case, the punt was shanked so badly that it was very deep into the bench, and even to the point where the short wing, even after throwing a flag, felt compelled to come back and help with getting the spot out of bounds. So we'd like to have the referee try to get over there and get the angle, the best angle that he can figure out in the direction of where the punt went. And then we're just going to do the best we can to get the ball down at the closest spot. Next clip. All right, the video is not good, but I'm going to talk you through this. All right, so we get a punt, and most of us have probably seen something similar to this. So we're going to get a punt, and this ball is going to hit a player right on the coconut, number 15. All right, so what is that? Hopefully we'll recognize that as being first touching. The player that is near this individual is not playing the football, so we're not going to make it KCI because he really is not in position to catch a kick. So it's not KCI. This is going to be illegal touching. We need to get a bag down by someone in the vicinity of where this hits this player's helmet. Now, is that the end of the play? No. Team A reserves the right, or excuse me, Team B reserves the right to attempt to field the ball. And unless they foul, they can always go back to the spot of first touching or illegal touching in high school. All right. So we need to be alert, but we need to make sure that we don't kill the play prematurely until we're certain that Team B has conceded and is not attempting to advance the ball. Another good play to learn from. All right, now this is going to be next clip, Cody. Conversely, by rule, this is going to be kick catch interference. We're going to get a pop-up kick, and Team A comes down and attempts to field the ball in the air. Now, it doesn't matter whether there's contact or not. Team A is not entitled to recover a kick until it has touched the ground by Federation rules. All right. So this is KCI regardless. Doesn't matter what else happens here. We're going to enforce KCI against Team A. Now we get a little bit confused, and initially we appear that we're going to give it to Team A. That's where we got to circle the wagons, get people in there and say, all right, what happened here? Did the ball hit the ground? No, it was caught in the air by Team A. All right, by rule, this is KCI. And conversely, when we get that information to the referee, then the referee is going to use the microphone, if we have the benefit of having one, and explain that by rule, the kicking team is not able to catch a kickoff in the air. So by rule, it's KCI, and it's going to belong kick catch interference. They probably won't get the acronym. And you're going to enforce the 15-yard foul to the left side of the screen. Let's make sure we always get our people headed in the right direction. It'd be easy to get turned around here and start going the wrong way. No, we need to make sure that we're headed in the benefit of Team B. All right, next clip. More teams are running run pass options. This happens to be Davison. And you can see number 76 is well downfield. He's at least 4, maybe 5 yards downfield. All right, now, quarterback may have recognized, I got someone downfield. I don't want to throw the ball. This may have been, he may have intended to run the ball from the very beginning. We don't know. But we have an ineligible player downfield hanging. So we need to make note of that, maybe by the umpire, certainly by one of the two short wings, just waiting to see if the quarterback A is going to throw the ball, and B, if the pass crosses the line. And if both of those conditions exist, then we're going to drop a flag, even if 76 comes back into a legal position. Once downfield, always downfield. Okay. But we have to be alert to that situation. That goes back to what Gary was talking about in terms of planning, watching video, talking about the teams we're going to have. Hey, remember, Davison runs the RPO. So we need to be prepared for potentially linemen downfield. We need to be prepared for the quarterback to have crossed the line before he throws a pass. We need to go through those scenarios so that we're not surprised when they occur during a game. All right, next clip. We're going to get a late entering sub from the bottom of the screen. Now, if number 24 gets all the way over to the defensive side of the field before the snap, we're good. We're not going to trouble. But in this particular case, he's well short of that. And we want to shut that down immediately. And the reason for that is if we let it go, 24 may go, well, I've already fouled. I might as well go in there and see if I can block this kick. And who knows what might happen from there. So we don't want that to happen. Shut it down, make it a dead ball foul, and force it half the distance to the goal and reset for the try. All right, next clip. All right, we're going to get another potential offensive interference downfield. All right, so what we've got, deeps, you're going to see this player come out, obviously engaged to block. He's driving that guy back downfield. So that's got to attract our attention. That was the second receiver, so this is probably going to be the back judge. Well, it depends because which half it's in, because we're 2 by 2. We've got 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. So this may be an ISO situation for H and S if you know that the back judge is on the other side of the field. All right. But anyway, what we're going to need to know is this pass touched behind the line of scrimmage or ahead of the line of scrimmage? And if you're not certain, the protocol is for you to drop your flag, let the play proceed, and then at the end of the play, we're going to go to the line of scrimmage people and say, where was the pass touch? I've got a hanging OPI downfield. And in this particular case, it appears to me that this is right at the line. It's not discernibly beyond the line. It would need to be a little bit further than that, depending on where this, and again, don't base this on where the player is, it's where the ball is touched as opposed to the location of the player. Right? So then you're going to come in, and what we need is a decision by one or both of the short wings. No, that pass crossed the line. Okay, then you're going to report OPI to the referee. Nope, that pass did not cross the line. Then we're coming in, and the referee's going to announce a flag pickup. It's important to put the flag down for 2 reasons. Number one, a late flag looks bad as opposed to a flag that is normal pace. But the other thing is that it puts Team A on alert that we're aware of what they're doing. And from a coaching standpoint, I would hope that that Team A coach would be saying, hey, let's make sure the timing on this is such that this pass is occurring while it's still behind the line, because he doesn't want to foul. So it puts them on notice. So that's the advantage of throwing the flag and asking your question. We're just relying on our short wing to be able to provide the information to us. All right, 85. We need to make sure that we see blocks beginning to end. All right, what we're going to get is we're going to get a player that's going to come down inside, and you can see 21 kind of runs around that block now, or maybe it's 26. The player, number one, does not make a lot of contact, but what he does is he blocks what's presented to him because the defensive player ducks around it. All right. So if we only see the end of this play, we might go, that's a block in the back. All right. But if we follow him beginning to end of this block, we're going to recognize that actually it was the defender that turned his back to the blocker, and therefore we're going to excuse that block and we're going to make that legal. And we may have to give an explanation to the coach accordingly. And of course, he's not going to like it, but he's going to get an answer, and it's the answer and the ruling that we're going to stick with. All right. The next play is going to be a running play towards the top of the screen near the pylon, and it reminds me of a play that Gary showed earlier. Now, never mind the mechanics. We're not in proper position here. We didn't start in the right place. We need to be further off of the goal line, prepared to back up to what would be the limit line if we needed to. But nonetheless, it's the responsibility of the deep wing to have his bogey is right here, this engagement that's going to occur at about the 6-yard line. All right. Now, watch what happens here. Clearly, leverage is lost. The player goes outside, not to the inside. If he cuts to the inside, we're going to pass on that because he has him walled off. But here, no way, no way. He's got this guy locked up. He can't participate. And as a result, the runner gets some extra yards. And down in this area of the field, every foot, every yard is precious. So this is a foul that we want called for offensive holding. This is a missed no call. And once again, is probably a reflection of that we have a substitute in there not familiar with deep wing mechanics. All right. We're going to make this the last clip of the night. This is going to be a play for back judges. All right, now we're 7-person mechanics. Now our deep wing starts a little bit shallow. Again, I want to remind you that we want to be minimum 22, preferably 24 or 25, regardless of our body type. It just gives us a chance to read longer before we have to move, all right? And then when we do need to move, we're 2, maybe 3 yards closer to the goal line, which is going to be at least a step, maybe 2, getting us to that precious location sooner. All right, so what we're going to get here, the back judge should know that he's got deep wings that will have goal line coverage. So if he senses the direction of this pass is not going to threaten the goal line, then the expectation is that the back judge is going to proceed back towards the end line. Well, you can see here that we exit stage right, and we turn our back on the whole thing, and we don't know what happened. All right. So the other thing that I would say is typically when you have players that are coming from that side of the field, you want to give ground towards the bottom of the screen. Now, nothing works all the time, but clearly we chose the wrong direction trying to run out of the way as opposed to running along the goal line. Or if we read that the pass was not going to challenge the goal line, we should have been running at an angle that would be more towards the back pylon to the left of the upright. Now, every back judge that's worked very long occasionally gets goofed up with their footwork. It happens, but we need to learn from that. We need to look at plays like this and say, all right, not if, but when this happens in the future, this is how I'm going to respond, so that we do a better job with our coverage in the end zone. Well, number one, that we are able to judge whether we have a foul or the play is legal. And number two, that if the end line is threatened, that we're going to be back there. All right, I had some other clips for tonight, but I can see that we're at the top of the hour now. Couple of concluding thoughts before we adjourn for the evening. As previously mentioned, downside, backside of the season now. So, we've worked hard all spring, all summer up to this point. I'm telling you, it's a lot more fun when you do this correctly as opposed to just simply doing it. The other thing that I want to remind you is that we always need to put our best foot forward. These games to these young men and young ladies, in some cases that are playing the game, it's everything to them. So we want to give them our best effort individually and collectively as a crew. And that includes being in the right position to make the right judgment so that the proper outcome results from our job out on the field. So we have all of this motivation. Externally, I would hope there's some motivation internally, that you have self-pride, that you want to do this to the very best of your ability. That's where we need to attend to these details, that we clean up those things that we know aren't quite right. Whether it's our concentration, it might be our pre-snap routine that we realize that we're not consistent with going all the way through, that we're not checking the game clock and the play clock every time to make sure that it's operating properly. If you're a line of scrimmage person, you need to confirm every down that you have 11 A players in the game. All those sorts of things at this point in the season, if they're not automatic, they ought to be darn close. So we need to make sure that we're cleaning up those details so that our work as we progress through the year, when these games get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the games get fewer and fewer and fewer for those seniors, our work to the very best of our ability. So, last thing I want to do is, before I send you off for your games this week, is to remind you once again that if you are so inclined to volunteer to present either clips or, as Gary did tonight, some details in terms of crew communication and mechanics, please let me know and we'll get you scheduled. All righty. Have a good week and enjoy those games. And remember, when you do it right, it's even more fun. Make sure our fouls are quality, that we maintain a high standard for non-safety fouls, and that we're consistent throughout the game. All right, have fun this week. See you next week.